if you are someone who deals with money anxiety, with spending guilt, with shame, any of those big, heavy emotions around money, I think this system is one of the best in coping with that. For a few years in a row, our car rego and insurance absolutely blindsided us. A bill that would come around every single year, the same month, the same amount, and yet somehow every single time we felt it set us back. We'd be going well, we'd be saving, things would be on track, and then car rego insurance would hit and significantly wipe out whatever it was we had built. At some point, I remember just thinking, this is a bill that comes around every year. Why does it keep surprising us? And that question changed how we managed all of our money going forward. And I want to tell you about what we did. Hey, I'm Magella. This is The Wealthy Parent, and we are building the life you are meant to live. 3 years ago, net worth was at 0 after we suffered a huge financial betrayal, but today it is at $350,000. We own an investment property in Brisbane, we rent in Sydney, and we used this exact money management system, this exact budgeting flow that I'm about to show you, in order to save $50,000 in 2025 on top of buying an investment property in April of the same year. I'm a toddler mum, a lawyer, I'm 18 weeks pregnant, and I am trying to get this podcast up and running before baby arrives in September. We are also in a sprint saving season right now. We are desperately trying to save for our maternity leave, and we're considering our next property purchase. So it is all happening over here. I am not a financial advisor. I am just a parent who has big dreams and is building systems that really works for our life while we work to build our wealth whilst growing our family. And today I want to walk you through exactly what that looks like from a cash flow perspective. This is a system we have built and tweaked and worked with for the last 7 years to make it really fit our specific life. So this is not intended to be financial advice. I'm just showing you what we're doing so that when we become super wealthy, you're not left wondering, how on earth did they do that? You will have been with us every step of the way. This money management system solved some really big problems for us that I think each and every one of you are probably facing at some point or another when it comes to your money and any other life goal that you're trying to implement. I call it the mental gymnastics problem. The way a normal budget works is you have an idea of how much money you're spending on each category. It's written down somewhere and it looks beautiful on a spreadsheet. But in reality, how it plays out is you need to mentally keep track of all of the numbers, all of the money that you've spent and the money that you have left to spend on each category. And you keep that just in your brain. Now, I don't know about you, but as a mum, as a parent, our cognitive load is already so high. As human beings, we only have so much mental capacity, and it fills up quite quickly with work, managing a household, managing relationships and family. There is so much that we're trying to keep in our brain. So if we can take anything out of that and get it into a system that automatically runs itself, that is going to help our mental load so much. As parents, we're already exhausted. There's already so many things flying around. Meal plans, appointments, family responsibilities, key dates, let alone all the work things that you're trying to keep in your brain. And when we're tired and our mental load is already at capacity, this is where silly mistakes happen. This is where poor decisions are made. We can't rely on willpower in these moments. We only have so much decision-making power, and we suffer from something called decision fatigue. What this system does is it reduces the cognitive load, it sets up an automated system, and it reduces that daily decision fatigue. So you don't have to be standing there at the counter doing the mental gymnastics. Can I afford to buy this coffee or not? How many days left of the budget? How many times have I bought coffee? How much would that be? You don't have to run through that in your brain. You will know with one click of a button, and the decision will have been made for you. In a standard budget, especially if you're following something like the Barefoot Investor, you might have a few buckets. You'll have your spending account, then a few savings accounts depending on what your savings goals are. The problem with all of your spending money going into one account is that your spending money for multiple different categories is being lumped into one bucket. So you have your grocery budget, your transport budget, your entertainment budget, your bills. Everything is lumped together all in one account. That's a large sum of money sitting there for you to be able to spend from. The issue that this creates is that at any given day, how do you know how much money you have left on each item? Let's take groceries for example. If your grocery budget is all lumped in with everything else, How do you know how much money you have left to spend on groceries? The only way to know is to do the maths every single time. Is to either remember how much you spent on groceries last week or to go back through your accounts and see how much did I spend? Okay, so then how much does that mean I have left over? Every single time you need to go to the grocery shops, you're thinking, can I afford to do a big shop or just a small shop? Like, how many items can I get? Like, is it 1 or 2 or is it 5 or 10? This question should take approximately 2 seconds. But with the standard budgeting setup, it could take up to 10 minutes of like mental gymnastics and arithmetic, and it leaves room for human error. It also leaves room for you to be like, fuck it, I don't have time to check. I'm just going to go to the grocery shops anyway. The goal is to know exactly how much you have to spend at the click of a button. At any given moment, you know exactly how much you have left to spend on petrol, how much you have left to spend on groceries, how much you have left to spend on coffee within 2 seconds. The goal isn't to track better and it's not to have a better spreadsheet. It's to eliminate the mental gymnastics entirely. I get really anxious when I think that we've overspent. This was something that I really had to overcome. Basically, what would happen is I would have a strict budget. It was not realistic. It was strict. I would convince myself that I was not going to spend any money and that I was going to save everything. Basically make huge, grand, big promises to myself. Inevitably, I would fail and I would have to make a big purchase, or I would cave and buy something that I wanted, not what I needed. You know, normal human behavior. I would overspend, and the crippling guilt and anxiety that would come with that overspending. It's like the best way of describing it is like a money hangover. You just feel so icky and disgusting and annoyed at yourself. And that comes with a lot of guilt and shame. And that shame would last with me for a very long time. I'm talking months. And so I would get into these shame spirals around money where suddenly the entire budget was out the window and I would just be spending money on everything because I would just completely stop looking at my accounts. So I'd be buying extra coffees, extra treats at the grocery store. I would be buying all of the clothes, all of the items on my list. Everything that I had put off, I'd be like, well, I've messed it up now. I may as well just buy everything and then start again once everything's been bought. Now, this spending phase, or I saw someone refer to a spending phase as the spending zoomies on Instagram. I can't remember who, but I just thought that was like the best way of describing it, the spending zoomies. That could last months and it would basically erode any of the progress I had made in the previous 6 months. You can spend money a lot faster, a lot faster than you can save it. And so when I created this system, it had to solve that problem. It had to alleviate the gaps, the room for human error that caused the guilt and shame. And so that's why we have sinking funds, whatever you want to call them, for things like clothes, haircuts, beauty maintenance, like getting your eyebrows done, getting laser, all of those things. Like, you have to really think about what it is that you spend your money on. You have to project and forecast the year and spend some time thinking about, what do I like to spend my money on? What do I value? What is realistic? Like, the realistic scenario is you're going to get your hair cut multiple times this year. So put it in the budget. Like, don't just pretend like you're not going to get it cut, because you are. So put it in the budget. This system pretty much only works if you are really honest and truthful and intentional, and you realize that it is a spend plan. It is a plan for how you're going to spend your money rather than a budget, rather than something that restricts your spending. So here's what we did. We opened 14 bank accounts, all with the same bank, each linked to our offset. There is one account for every single spending category. We have separate cards for each category that we spend on a daily basis. Here are the different accounts that we have. We have entertainment, which is basically like our family fun money. It's going out as a family, it's socializing. Basically, it's like family discretionary spending. Transport, which is petrol, parking, public transport, anything like that. Groceries, our investing account, our emergency fund, our property emergency fund, our bills account, our buffer account, our charity account, our presents account, Henry's expenses, and rent. We then have 2 totally separate accounts. Connor has his own fun account and I have my own fun account for completely guilt-free spending. Each of these categories we found by A, going through our statements and finding out what sort of things we're spending our money on, and B, just like lived experience and tweaking our system and going, hey, we're actually spending money on our toddler stuff like quite regularly. Maybe we just need to have a sinking fund that each pay period we put a little bit of money there and it can build up, or we can spend it each week. Our bills account is where it all started. It's where we realized, hey, we need to be putting money aside every single pay period for the big bills that come up every single year. This was the car rego origin story of our system. So what we did was we took big expenses like the car rego and insurance and divided it by 12 so that we knew every single month how much do we need to put aside so that the money would be sitting ready and waiting for it to be spent on car rego so that it didn't take away from our other savings. And then we started to do that for other bills as well. Health insurance, utilities like electricity, water. We put aside a little bit of money every single pay period so that when those bills come, it's no skin off our nose. It causes absolutely zero stress because the money is sitting there waiting to be paid. We did the same with presents. We both come from somewhat big families, and gift giving is something that we absolutely love. And so we decided that every year we would preset a budget for each person so we knew in total how much we were going to spend that year on gifts. And then again, we would divide that total by 12 so that we knew each month how much money we needed to put aside for gift giving. So the moment we did all of this, expenses stopped becoming a surprise, and we could actually value the things that we liked spending money on. They weren't stressful anymore. The money comes in every pay period and then it's designated a specific role. It's labeled and we know exactly what it's for. Then when the bill comes around, the money's right there and we don't have to think twice about it. Outside of our fun money, I think the best account in this roundup of accounts is the buffer account. This is what gets us through each pay period without ruining our spend plan. Because inevitably, each pay period, there is something that comes up that's not defined as an emergency. It's not like crisis or like we really need to spend this, but it's like we kind of needed it, or we really wanted it, or it didn't really fall into a category. And so the buffer account is so helpful. We drain that buffer account every single month. We don't put a lot of money in there, but we put enough that if it does roll over, it makes us feel like we have extra spending money if we need it. Honestly, the biggest hack to making this system work was the buffer account, because previous to adding in the buffer account, there was always something. And so we were constantly having to, at the end of the month, rebalance it and like pull money from different places just to cover like one or two expenses. And so the buffer account really alleviated that mental stress. The accounts that we actually do daily spending on, like entertainment, groceries, transport, fun, and our buffer, they all have actual physical cards linked to it. So I have those cards on my phone. We have them in our wallet. Whenever I go to the grocery shop, I use my grocery card. This has also been game changing. Having access cards for those accounts means that we don't have to fiddle with transferring every single time. When we kept our everyday account at zero and we transferred from the groceries account into the everyday account so that I could pay for groceries, if there was a line or if I was feeling particularly frazzled, if I had Henry with me, if I was stressed or just not focused for whatever reason, I would tap, I would not do the transfer, and the account would go into negative and it would be sort of messed up. So having the access cards has also been very game changing to allowing this system to flow without having to do any extra work. Then the accounts that we don't use as often, we just do the transfer process, and that is so easy and a non-issue. So things like presents or gifts, charity, emergency funds, investing, savings account, like those sorts of things, we don't need to use all of the time. So a transfer is totally practical. How it works practically is we have a beautiful spreadsheet where we have pre-decided how much money is going into each account. We call this the split. Both of our incomes come into the one account, and every pay period, Connor runs the money through the split. He transfers $200 to the family entertainment account. He transfers $300 to the groceries account, and so on and so forth. Whilst we came up with the split, the spreadsheet, the management system together, and every few months we revisit it, see if it needs any tweaking together. On a more practical, like day-to-day management of it all, Connor does the actual physical transferring, and that's just a division of labor thing so that it's not getting double handled. A key thing here is that now that we have a mortgage, all of our accounts are linked to our offset account. And so every single dollar that's sitting in those bank accounts is directly helping us offset our mortgage. prior to having an offset account, all of our accounts that had a lot of money sitting in there, like bills and any of our savings or investings accounts, they were all high interest savings accounts. Either having a high interest account or having it linked to your offset is a super easy thing that you can do to allow your money to be quietly compounding and working for you every single month. I want to tell you something a little bit more personal that is about how Connor, my husband, and I actually run this system, because I think the division of labor that we've landed on says something about how good financial systems operate, really how any good system operates. Every few months we come together, we look at it together, we decide together what are our goals, what are our focuses, does the amount that we're putting into each account, does that need to change? Do we need to tweak anything so that it is reflective of what our goals are for the next few months? But Connor manages it day to day. He does the actual transferring, any of the tidying up that needs to be done. He manages our accounts on a daily basis. The reason for this is that Connor has zero emotional baggage when it comes to money. He doesn't have that emotional charge that I have. So we have recognized our strengths and weaknesses here, and we've played on that. He does the transferring. It takes him no time at all. And it takes him probably a third of the time that it would take me. Because for me, the same task would involve a little bit of anxiety. It would involve avoidance, spiraling, if I had suspected or if I knew that we had overspent that month. And that's not a failure. It is really important to be self-aware with your emotions when it comes to money. And that's what makes a partnership so strong. You can play into each other's strengths. Now, if I didn't have Connor, I would have to face that anxiety head on every single month. And that's okay. I would be able to manage it because before we were married, we had separate finances. And that was something I was actively working on each month. I still work on it now. It's just that it's way more efficient for Connor to get through it than it would be for me to do exposure therapy on it every single month. Good systems are designed around how you actually are and not how you think that you should be. I want to be really, really clear and honest about this. This system didn't work for us all of the time, and it didn't work perfectly with the very first setup. It is a kind of system that involves practice, reflecting, tweaking. We have been tweaking this system since we started it 7 years ago. 2 years we were operating the same system separately in our own separate finances, and 5 years of being married and having joint finances. So we have tweaked it a lot. It has gone through a lot of iterations. And there was a period there where we had no income. And during this period, I was convinced that our system was fundamentally flawed. My little survival brain kept telling us there's something wrong with the system. The system's not working. Why are we overspending? Why is it not working? Instead of saying, hey, it's because you don't have an income. It's because you have no money coming in. And that's what you need to fix, not the system. And the reason why my brain was doing that is because of the situation we were in. And it was quite a dire situation. It was a extreme, complicated situation. It was much easier to blame the system rather than to realize that something drastic needed to change in our lives. And so the point is that if whatever system you have isn't working for you, it's important to distinguish, is it because the system is fundamentally flawed, or is it because you haven't tweaked it or refined it in a way that suits you and your emotions and your level of income? For example, our system now is based on a dollar value, and that's because we have a set income. We have 2 full-time incomes that are fairly set. The way we've set it up, just to be very clear, because we have a part of our income that is commission-based and therefore it's not set, is that our spend plan is based on the set income, and then any commission is put into extra savings. But before we had set incomes, like the same amount of money coming in on a regular basis, we operated this system based on percentages. And so instead of saying $200 goes to family entertainment or $100 goes to your fun account, we would say 15% is going to family entertainment and 10% is going to your fun account. And that way, if you made more money, you had more money. If you made less money, you had less money to spend. So we operated on a percentage-based system. When I had an inconsistent casual income, realizing that there was a percentage-based system that I could operate from was life-changing because I wasn't trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It made it very, very simple, and there was rarely any room for error. So these are the kinds of tweaks you need to make. You need to reflect. You need to practice, reflect, and tweak and see what kind of system do you need for your particular situation. So for us, in that period where we didn't have an income, any system that we had tried would not have worked because fundamentally there was not enough money coming in for the expenses that were required to come out. So that's why it wasn't working. No amount of tweaking in that situation was going to get it to work. We just needed to get proper consistent income. So systems need iteration. They need you to reflect. Nothing is a perfectly working system from the very first setup. You need to practice, reflect, and tweak. I will say that unless there is some big event or unforeseen circumstance, it is hard to overspend with this system as long as you have accounted for everything that you need, including like for women, clothes. Like you can say that you're not going to buy clothes, but you will. So buying clothes every few months, skincare and haircuts or beauty maintenance, like getting your eyebrows done, that kind of thing. As long as you account for all of that and it's in your budget, there is very little room for overspending, for guilt, for anxiety, for shame. And that's why I absolutely loved this system even before we got married, even before I had Connor to offload the transferring task. Personally, I think this is the best system I've come across. If you are someone who deals with money anxiety, with spending guilt, with shame, any of those big, heavy emotions around money, I think this system is one of the best in coping with that. We are fully joint on all of our finances except our individual fund money. And I think this is really important. I think it's really important to have your own autonomy and control over a portion of money that you can spend on whatever you want. It is not linked to any financial goals. It's not linked to the other person. The other person doesn't have to worry about it at all. Even if you were setting up this budget on your own, even if you were just one person involved in your finances, having an account that is fully separate from all of the sensible stuff. It's fully separate from everything that you're working towards, that you're aiming for. It is just guilt-free money. That is such a beautiful part of this system. It's really important that you feel like you can have autonomy and control of your spending outside of your goals, because if you're anything like me, the minute you feel like you have no freedom, you rebel and the entire plan goes out the window. The best thing about this system, along with the money check-ins and the regular conversations, is that the conversations are no longer reactive and they're no longer stressful. They're proactive and they are coming from a place of like, let's do this together. Let's look forward. Let's come together in a peaceful, structured way that is not going to create angst. This system didn't just organize our money. It took the emotional weight, the stress, the anxiety out of it completely. Well, not completely, almost completely. And for someone like me who gets stressed and avoids the whole concept of money when I think that we've overspent, that is everything. The best thing for me personally about this cash flow management system is that it takes all of the guilt and shame away from buying things that feel like they're discretionary, but really they're needs. For example, buying clothes when you need to size up, buying things like underwear when all of yours die all at the same time. These are things that you don't account for on a monthly basis, but it seems like there's always something that comes up. So having a system that accounts for these, that allows you to make these purchases without the guilt and shame, that to me is what a true rich life is. It's removing the stress, it's removing the guilt and shame, and it's having peace when it comes to your money. This system allows us to fund a very specific life, not some future version of it, this one right now, because this life is the only life that we 100% have. Everything else is a maybe. It's a someday. It's a future thing. We want to plan for that, and we want to be ready for it when it comes, of course. But today, this life, this is the only thing that is guaranteed. And so we want to make sure that every day is rich for us. Right now, our children are little. Our marriage is still young. We want to create a life that is joyful and filled with memories, even if it is just the simple pleasures of life. So we have a family entertainment account that allows us to go out and create those memories. And no matter how broke we are, we always have a charity account because those are the things that make our life rich. But we also have an investing arm of our split because it's important to take a little bit now so that in 10 years we can be living the best version of our rich life where we have real time to spend with our family, to take family holidays, and not to be making decisions from a place of financial stress. So this system is serving our present life, it's serving our dream life, but it's also serving the life that is in our immediate future. This system allows us to save for things 6 to 12 months in advance, whether that's our maternity leave, which is us right now, or our property, which was what we were saving for this time last year. So this system serves all three timelines at once: the present, the immediate future, and the dream life. When it comes to your money, the best spend plan, budget, money management system, whatever you want to call it, the best one is one that is realistic, that fits exactly how you are, not how you think you should be. It is one that allows you to live your life now. It allows you to live and spend intentionally whilst still preparing for a life that is in the immediate future and the one that's 10 years down the track. It has nothing to do with how complex it is, how sophisticated it is. It is all about whether it fits your life now and whether it is realistic. I built a system around the fact that I get anxious when it comes to money. And when I'm anxious, I tend to avoid my finances. I built a system that alleviates almost completely that anxiety and that stress. And that's why the system works for us, because it's designed intentionally around real human beings with real emotional responses, because your money and how you manage your money and how you show up financially is so much more about your emotions and your mindset and how you manage those emotions and way less about the actual numbers. This is not something that is based around a hypothetical situation where you have to be the most disciplined version of yourself. It is designed for you as you are, living the life that you want to live. And that is the beauty of it. Whether you're trying to get on top of your finances, train for a half marathon, whatever it is that you're doing, design a system that meets you where you are and creates a life that you actually want to be living. Because that is where you'll find your discipline. It's not in a hypothetical version of you that you think that you should be. Let me know how you go. Okay, love you, bye.